Only joking, it's not Burke from Trapdoor with a Vault Boy face, it's me, Stephanie Sterling, unfortunately. You know what, I thought that would look quite fun, putting a Vault Boy mask on Burke from Trapdoor, but it's actually just quite upsetting. So, today we're talking about, well, jank. You see, there's a lot of topics going on. I could talk about the proposed Nintendo MMO. I could talk about all manner of things. I've got this idea I'm cooking up about how that Amazon MMO, New Worlds Eternum, is linked to severe manic depression. Well, in my mind anyway, my manically depressed mind. But here's an issue. Someone gave me an excuse to rip the shit out of Bethesda again, and what, am I not supposed to take it? So join me, won't you, as we ask the question, when is it jank, and when is it unacceptable bullshit? Bethesda's in the latter column, if you couldn't tell.
Bugginess is an expected and acceptable trade-off for a huge open-world game. This has always been the excuse for Bethesda Game Studios' notoriously busted titles. Way back in 2006, I think, which is basically 5,000 years ago now, I expressed frustration online that the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion was severely buggered up in numerous ways, some of which were silly, some of which were downright ruinous. It had frozen on me one too many times, and I went onto the internet to be angry about it, which is, you know, the only thing the internet's for. From quests that would randomly break to frequent crashing, Oblivion ran the gamut. It seemed at times like if you could imagine a way a game might fuck up, Oblivion hadn't just been there, it had bought an entire rack's worth of the t-shirt. And it was the first time I encountered the counterpoint that I'd subsequently witnessed for nearly 2 decades. Yeah, but the bugs are okay when you consider just how big the game's open world is, just how gosh darn ambitious it all is. In the wake of Starfield being exactly as broken as any other Bethesda game in ways no different from way back when in 2006, it's a counterpoint that still comes up today. It's a really solid point too. Until you remember that it's actually not really a solid point at all. I'm thinking of this today because of comments made by the lead designer of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, Bruce Nesmith. It's hardly surprising that of all people he'd consider a laundry list of bugs to be an acceptable trade-off for what Bethesda does, and hey, I adored Skyrim back when it first came out. For me back then it was the RPG to beat.
I'm not lollygagging, I'm taking a leak.
But, well, in 2024 current year argument, I really don't think the excuse quite washes anymore, especially when it comes to Bethesda, whose games more than any others have become downright synonymous with glitchy releases. On that point, Nesmith at least concedes that the studio could stand to do better, so let's actually hear him out. I will be the first person to say that Bethesda games could have a higher degree of polish. They have benefited, and when I was there I benefited, from providing such a wide and vast array of gameplay that a certain amount of lack of polish could be forgiven. Having an NPC run in place in front of a wall for a little while became acceptable because of the 17 things you could do with that NPC. Whereas in most games you'd be able to do 2. Now my main pushback to this assertion that Bethesda games do so much to compensate for their bugginess is that they honestly really don't. Maybe over 10 years ago this could be argued as true, or at least less spurious, since there was a point in time where what Bethesda was doing could be argued as ambitious. Playing Starfield now, after so many years of open world games from dozens of other studios, after The Outer Worlds, one really can't see much ambition on display. What about Starfield actually pushes the boat out? When the game came out last year, I suggested that it was barely more evolved than not only Skyrim, but bloody Fallout 3. I stick by that.
Same as it ever was.
Its gameplay feels the same as it always has. Its repetitive quest structure full of back and forth fetching or back and forth killing, taking place across shockingly obvious copy-pasted environments, is quite literally identical to how every Bethesda game is structured. Even the NPCs do the exact same routine as every Bethesda game. Oh, and don't worry, we will cover that suggestion that you can do 17 things with them.
Taking a leak. Hey. You didn't let. Come here. Okay, I'll tell it again.
You know the Bethesda NPC routine by now, where they look at you and just say something fucking rude. No matter how heavily armed and armoured you are, no matter if you've saved the fucking world, NPCs in a Bethesda game fall into two camps. Complete fucking arseholes and incapable incompetents who somehow know that you're the protagonist of a video game and immediately trust you with their life history, secrets, and sensitive jobs. And some of them are fucking arseholes as well. Look, I don't care how much you want to defend Starfield, you know I'm fucking right on this one. You all know the routine. Just walk past any bunch of guards.
There's a house for sale. Freeze home. You should talk to the steward up in the keep if you're interested.
Is it a place where I could take a leak?
I've talked about it in a past video, but I'll never forget when there's that kind of dangerous marathon thing that's in Starfield. We're going to call it the Krypton Factor. And I went outside, I ran the Krypton Factor, I came back from doing the Krypton Factor. The venue had a big loud celebration of me winning the Krypton Factor, and then some NPC walked past and immediately said, I bet you couldn't run the Krypton Factor. Well, what the fuck? I just ran. We were just talking about it. Loudly. You absolute fucking cunt. Anyway, there are other RPGs that do this, and I just want to point out it is no longer a cute routine that every NPC is a cock-end towards the player. It just makes me want to destroy the world that they're in, not save it.
I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
Okay, that whole bit was an unscripted tangent, and it wedged itself into the middle of a scripted short list of things, which was going to end with, I wouldn't go so far as to say that visually it's the same, but honestly it's not exactly a leap forward in the graphics department. We moved on so far away from that list of things. Oh, and there's one uncanny resemblance to Fallout 3 that, again, can't be denied. It is exactly as polished. Many of the bugs found in Starfield can be found in literally every other Bethesda game going back to Oblivion. Like, yes, some of them are just the same problem. It just hadn't been fixed. I think we've long ago passed the point where the bugs are an acceptable trade-off at all. For Starfield to barely move the needle in terms of updating how it looks, feels, and plays, to where the bugs are the same because so much of the game is the same, it's really not okay at all. Not only that, but Starfield is explicitly regressive in some areas. I'm sorry, but I'm still not over how Bethesda copied the charisma-based skills in Obsidian's The Outer Worlds and completely fucked them up to the point of nigh uselessness by turning them from a passive skill to an active ability that requires awkwardly aiming and using in real time with such a low activation chance that by the time you've brought up the skill and failed to use it, you could have just shot the target dead. Even when Bethesda tried to have something new in the mix, it was a derivative idea done in about the worst way possible. Right, we've arrived at the NPC stuff I've actually written in the script. I'd take umbrage with this argument that you can do so many things with the average Bethesda NPC, because, what?
No, see, where I'm from, if you tell somebody that you are taking a leak, it means that you are passing water, urinating, as some may call it in the common parlance. But this is called a leak, and I'm being instructed to take. You're not looking.
What are these 17 things you can do with a Bethesda NPC that you can't do anywhere else? Because as much as I can tell, you can only do 2 things with them. The same things you do in most sandboxes. You can talk to them, you can fight them, and you can, like if we want a third, you can talk to them again and choose a different dialogue option. Admittedly, there have been a couple of cute tricks some of the games have, like NPCs returning items to you if you drop them in their line of sight, but that's all they are, cute tricks. The one people are going to want to bring up is you can put a bucket on an NPC's head and steal things right in front of them, but that wasn't a matter of design. That was ineptitude that was turned to the player's favour. I mean, it absolutely isn't good design that an NPC can walk around with a bucket on their head and not notice. Compare that to Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, all the way back on the PlayStation 2. The things you can do with one single random enemy is still impressive today. You can get them to eat rotten food and throw up. You can fling snakes at them. You can make beehives drop onto them. You can distract them with wank mags. You can blow up their supplies to starve them or reduce their ammo. You can dress up like their boss so they thank you while you punch them in the balls. And that's not even all the things you can do. Now that is an ambitious game. I've played Snake Eater like a dozen times in my life, and I'm not sure I've ever encountered even a tenth of the bugs I saw within the first couple hours of Starfield. As far as true game breakers go, I've never had a single one near as I can recall. That brings us to the ultimate sinking of the argument that Bethesda's bugs are acceptable, because there are so many comparisons we can make to more ambitious games, and games that are just as big, if not bigger, none of which exhibit such a consistently fucked experience. You don't have to look very far to find open-world games that are just as big as Bethesda releases and are still significantly more advanced in terms of graphics and gameplay. Hell, Bethesda publishes a bunch of them from other studios. The game that immediately came to my mind was Ghost of Tsushima. That's what I thought of when Nesmith started talking about the vastness of the experience. Despite being a PS4 game, Ghost of Tsushima is so gorgeous as to put more contemporary games to shame. It certainly shits all over Starfield. Its open world is not only huge, it's diverse with a variety of visibly distinct, stunningly detailed environments. Crucially here, these environments are bespoke in their design. While not every single asset is an individually crafted snowflake, every part of the world can at least claim to be designed, unlike the many drab caves found replicated in droves throughout Bethesda's open worlds, of which Starfield is one of the worst offenders. I mean, it took only a short while playing to see the exact same mine layout on a dozen different planets. Kinda kills the whole expansive universe illusion when so many allegedly different worlds have identical cave networks. A lot of games with copy-pasted environments at least try and be fucking subtle about it, but even that was too much to ask. And to make the real point, Ghost of Tsushima isn't a bug-riddled disaster. Does it have bugs? Sure, I guess. Can't recall any off the top of my head, but I am sure they're there. I'm not saying there aren't. Nesmith is right in saying there's no such thing as a bug-free game. And it's going to be true that the bigger and more complex something is, the greater the chance of fault. The more moving parts, the more parts can break. But like, come on, there are degrees here. It's not like you can ram a car into a box full of puppies and then shrug and say, well, we've all had accidents. I mean, physically you can do that, but you shouldn't. Imagine if Ghost of Tsushima had come out as buggy as a Bethesda game. Not only would people find it notable, they'd probably be shocked. Whenever a big budget game is even half as broken as a Bethesda game, it's generally considered shockingly unacceptable. It's almost as if Bethesda's just been grandfathered in, like their reputation of buggy but ambitious has become so deeply baked into people's minds that it's kept the company coasting even long after the ambitious part long stopped being true. Fact is, we have so many open world games to choose from now. Too many, in fact. The market is saturated in them, and while that saturation is bloody ridiculous, it does mean that enough refinement and codification has occurred to determine a general baseline standard of quality, and it's a standard Bethesda increasingly falls short of as the medium improves, but Bethesda stays exactly where it is. When there was far, far less competition, when a game like Oblivion was one of only a select handful of titles that could provide a sprawling, adventurous, open-world power fantasy, it could better get away with being full of bugs.
Oh, and The Witcher 3. I wanted to mention Witcher 3 because people are going to mention Witcher 3 and they're going to wonder why I didn't mention Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is also better than Bethesda games. Witcher 3.
Some will categorise the state of their games as all part of the charm. I did indeed have people telling me that Starfield was a broken mess and they, I quote, wouldn't have it any other way. Sort of get the temptation. I am, after all, a big fan of what's affectionately, if backhandedly, known as Eurojank games. Whenever Focus Home Interactive is publishing something new, I will take immediate notice because there's a good chance it'll be something that won't feature a ton of polish but will be doing something interesting and made with a lot of heart. That is something I can respect. There have been some games that might not be particularly stable, that may have some weird physics issues or clunky features, that aren't graphically impressive and have still absolutely sold me. Of Orcs and Men with its fascinating characters, incredible soundtrack and unique storytelling. Vampire with its underused setting and solid action RPG gameplay, featuring fun little vampiric twists. You know, the first Dead Island was a mess in many ways, but I've gone back to it a lot over the years to get lost in Cinemoy's eyes and imagine how it must feel to be in his big arms and just held and And anyway, The Sunken City is still a broken as hell game that I still think I like in the most not likingest way possible, so I can't be accused of having no patience for glitchy nonsense. My patience, though, is reserved for the ones that were made with a limited budget, small teams, fewer resources than the big hitters that nonetheless gave it everything they had and did their best. There are a lot of sprawling and deep action RPGs out there made by studios that don't have the resources of BioWare, but are making BioWare-style games anyway, because that is what actual ambition looks like. And that's the difference, really. What I like about Eurojank and similar games is that it's clear the good ones tried. These smaller studios' jank is genuinely charming, not because they're memes or because they've been in the business so long we just think it's part of the charm. It's charming because through all the jank is some actual character, something original that wins players over because they put in a ton of sincere effort to make a game against the odds. I repeat again that last important factor. They did it against the odds. Bethesda has no odds. They are a fucking rich company. They had resources enough to buy other studios before Microsoft acquired them, and now that they have one of the wealthiest corporations in the world behind them, they truly have no fucking excuse. They're not scrappy underdogs, they bloody well boughted software, and their shit is still more broken than a game like Mars Warlogs. They're putting out games with twice the bugs and a quarter of the charm. So no, I don't think it's an affable characteristic of that lovable old Bethesda. It's fucking gross when you consider what they should be capable of and how little they ever push the boat out. Sadly, unlike a scrappy janky game with something to prove, Bethesda's getting off so lightly, has so much praise it's considered entitled to, that it doesn't have to change a goddamn thing. Bethesda's been complacent for a very long time, mostly skating by on its brand name and an army of loyal fans. There's a particular phenomenon I've mentioned before where any criticism about Bethesda is generally considered uncontroversial unless it's a year in which Bethesda has a game coming out, at which point the company's become a temporary darling for a couple of months before it goes back to being safe to criticise. Just compare the response to any work I've done properly ripping the shit out of Bethesda's games to the immediate response to my review of Starfield. Actually, no, don't do that. The comments to my review are some of the most hateful, offensive, violent, transphobic things you could ever read. And as someone who's reviewed games and made gamer boys angry for 15 years, that's really fucking saying something. But yeah, any other year, Bethesda's fair game, as soon as Starfield's come out, some of the most genuinely disgusting and vile responses I've ever seen. And it's a shame that so many people are so willing to forget how badly broken Bethesda's games are when a brand new one to fawn over comes out, especially when within a few weeks of launch everyone's saying, oh wow, this game's buggy as fuck. Like, of course it is! Y'all bought it in droves and viciously tore into anybody who didn't say it was great. Why would Bethesda have an impetus to change its bullshit in that environment? It's why I hate the fucking idea that certain games just inherently deserve review scores of 9s and 10s, and why you can get torn apart by seething gamers even if you just call a game good instead of perfect. If you keep telling someone what they're doing is literally perfect and never has to change, why would they have any motivation to get better? How would they even know they need to get better? Bethesda learned a long time ago it can get away with broken games, corporate incompetence and outright dishonesty because all will be forgiven. Nesmith says Bethesda games could do with a higher degree of polish. Yeah, but will they ever get it? Not when the company has absolutely no desire to and nobody's incentivizing them to have any. Frankly, I'm surprised the company is still getting away with it in an age where there are games doing their exact shtick but bigger and better, but name value counts for a lot, I guess, and Bethesda's been able to comfortably rest on its laurels for a very long time. No game is bug-free, but no studio has such a track record of so many games that come out with so many goddamn bugs. And the fact that some of these bugs go back years and years and still occur in new games makes me think that no, Bethesda's games couldn't do with more polish. They could do with a whole new engine, a whole new development process, and probably whole new management and leadership, because goddamn is the routine of ineptitude from the company both within and without its video games on a whole other level.
Oh well, hey ho, another load of bollocks. Now, one final point to bring up, because I know people are going to want me to: mods. I think another big reason why Bethesda's been able to coast, been able to rest on its laurels, is the modding community. It's something of a meme that modders will finish the games that Bethesda releases. And as much of a joke as that is, it's also quite true. Bethesda can release a glorified beta, some sort of buggy, broken, completely unfinished game, and modders will go in there and clean it up and make sure that the many quests that could become uncompletable if a mistake happens, or if someone does something in an order that they don't know is wrong, and isn't wrong, it's just that the game is that borked. And people will go in and fix that and give the games more longevity and make them more playable. And there's got to be an attitude, at least with management, that's acceptable, that it is fine, that someone will come along and finish the job. And I'm not blaming the individual developers, I'm not blaming the people at the core level, I'm blaming the management, as I always like to do. After all, this is a company that famously gave Obsidian a fucking year to do Fallout New Vegas, and then withheld a bonus if it didn't reach a high enough Metacritic score. The absolute fucking cheek. But that level of ingratitude is inherently found throughout Bethesda's attitude towards mods. You know, they rely on these mods to finish the games and give their games the longevity that they have, and then they try and monetize them, they try and control them, they try and cut themselves a slice of the action while doing fuck all themselves to deserve it. And that really sucks. It's alright, we'll mod that out. Thank God for me.